All right, Black Nerds Talk. I'm here with the amazing.
Hyushi-sama. Hyushi-sama. I have to speak a bit louder because I have the quietest voice in the world, but also a very appealing little voice. I'm out here.
And we're going to be actually talking about Demon Slayer and the empathy you find that's a very prevalent theme in the show. Personally, for me, I resonated a lot with the main character Tanjiro, and so I feel like there's a lot to talk about when it comes to the show, especially since it just finished airing this past Saturday. So let's just get right into it.
Let's do it.
So one of the things I noticed in Demon Slayer is that demons are sort of a replication of people.
Indeed they share similar emotions as us. They're not too different. The only difference you could say about the demons is that they have to survive by eating humans.
Exactly. And that's not really that different than what you see in modern days in like real life. I feel like the demons are an analogy for people. So in the sense of there's a Rondell from Rise here in Toronto. He had a really good quote when I was talking to him once about a girl I used to talk to, and in the sense of you can't see the facial reaction he just gave, but it's pretty funny. In the sense of hurt people. So to break that down further, people that are hurt other people. Someone that comes from an abusive household, like you've seen with countless people that are in the spotlight, like Chris Brown. Remember when he abused Rihanna?
Yeah.
He ended up later on explaining to the media that he came from an abusive household, and that's not different than the demons you see in the show. They're very hurt. They, like, if you look at the first major demon that Tanjiro had to face, it was during the what's it called, the arc
or the when they had to go to the mountains and pretty much survive the whole night.
Exactly. The Demon Slayer selection arc. I think that's what it's called. I can't
that's
remember.
What it was.
It's not that important what the name of the arcs are. But the first demon actually was someone who ended up killing his brother, and he was one of his brother's affection. And you saw that the type of demon that he transformed into, first I would say that the demons they transform into things that they wish they had when they were human. So that first demon, he was a demon covered in hands.
Mm-hmm.
And what he want most was the affection of his brother through physical contact, through holding his hand. And no surprise that he was a demon covered in hands. And only at the end when, Tanjiro killed him, that's when he remembered his past and how he always wanted his brother's affection. And that's the thing that he was reaching for. And that's the one that gave him, I guess you could say, closure.
Yeah, I did give
him
closure.
His closing moments in life.
In the very end, they showed that when all the demons die, they all pretty much get a bit of closure. You get to see their backstory and why they are the way they are. And with this particular demon, you really got to see what kind of person he was in the very end. And that was the first time we ever got to sympathize with a demon. We seen him and we're like, oh, this demon actually has a real backstory, and it actually relates to what kind of character he is now. It was interesting. I really like that whole the bits and pieces of dynamic, the little things that they want to show in the very beginning about empathy, which is kind of this topic.
Yeah, and the fact that so there's actually two things I want to say. That one, we didn't have to wait for it to be a major villain, because usually you only find out the backstory of one major villain in a show. You don't really get to see it for some random villain at the beginning of the show. So for me, that set the precedence for the show.
That was really good. I liked it.
And then the other thing that also made me think, when you looked at the water pillar's name, I never remember his name because his name is so Gyu. I think his first name is Gyu. And how he told Tanjiro, the main character, not to empathize with demons. It makes me think about how much demons actually never get closure, because not all demons are killed by Tanjiro.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I really connected with him in the way he empathizes with people. But one of the things that you're searching him up.
Yes, I am.
I think it's Gyu Tomiyaka or something like that.
His name is.
I was right.
You're spot on. Gyu Tomiyaka.
Yep, there you go. But anyways, so I really relate to Tanjiro in the sense of how he empathizes with people. For me personally, because I really like the content I want to be that I create to be very introspective, and one of the things I really want to focus on, like I said, is empathy. Is that I empathize with people a lot, um, and sometimes that can be, I guess you could say, harmful. It can be harmful to me in certain times. And sometimes often, no, not even sometimes, oftentimes I can be criticized for it when it comes to people putting my life or well-being in jeopardy for the sake of themselves, because I'm taking so much of their feelings and their circumstances into consideration, um, which has happened a number of times. And so I kind of sometimes I wonder if I should empathize with people, if that's a really bad thing, because that's the thing that Tanjiro is often criticized for, in the sense of you shouldn't be empathizing with demons. But going back on what I said before, demons are not that different from people. You can't really understand someone unless you like are able to look at their circumstances.
And when you look at it this way, you could say that like Demon Slayer is a whole blob of like miscommunication. Like no one understands the demons at all. The humans itself, their whole objective is just to kill demons. They don't want to see the size of the demons that no one else sees. And Tanjiro is the only person, literally the only person in the show who could look at a demon and just be like, oh, I actually feel for this demon. Oh, he actually has a real life. And he even says himself, like, demons are pitiful, not pitiful souls.
Homeless.
Homeless souls.
Sorry, homeless. Hopeless.
Hopeless. They're homeless, I'm joking. They're hopeless souls. And that just shows, like, what kind of character he is in general. And the miscommunication towards humans and demons is really relevant. Like what you were saying that, like, you don't really want to, like, not necessarily you don't want to, but you're in a sense not afraid, but I'll use the word afraid in this case. You're afraid to empathize with some people because of the miscommunication that could be given. And in this case, in Demon Slayers, when Tanjiro is empathizing with the demons, no one even understands his side of the story. No one understands that he's willing to be open and actually look more into their lives.
Introspective, yeah.
And understand them on a different level.
I guess as you're saying that, I can expand a little bit more. So the reason I empathize with people so much is because one of the things that I feel that the world lacks is empathy and compassion. I think if you can empathize...
Yeah. Hell yeah.
I think that if you can empathize with people, if you can understand the reason why they do what they do, like I said, going back on the same quote, hurt people hurt people. If you can understand why this person, if you can see that this person hurt people, or you can look back and you can see what hurt this person and why they're perpetuating that same hurt. Because the thing that they're doing to others, something happened to them. Even in terms of the girl that we were talking about before, like, I know that there's certain things that led to her being to the where she is. And it's the reason why she's continuously putting herself in these situations. Actually, to go even further than that, we'll talk about it later. But I would even say she's very different from Rui. Because Rui, for those that can't remember what I'm talking about, Rui is the demon in the mountain arc who was part of the 12 lower moons of the 12 Kizuki, and he's someone which we'll talk about later, but he's someone, one of his main issues besides family is being in self-denial. So, but going back on the whole thing, I feel like once you can empathize with someone, you can understand why they do what they do. It's easier to understand them, and then thus it's easier to solve problems. Not in the sense of like trying to fix someone, but in the sense of helping them grow and helping them overcome some of their issues. And I've always taken that approach when it comes to, the youth I've worked with, and even in terms of the youth that Hyushi also does a lot of community work as well. And I feel like that's a very effective way of connecting with people, rather than like criticizing or lambasting or labeling someone. I wouldn't say any different than like how some of the demon slayers are like, let's just kill them, let's just excommunicate them, let's just remove them out from, I guess you could say, society. We need to actually spend more time in getting involved in understanding why people do what they do. Why do people commit the crimes they do? Why do people hurt people the way they do? Why are people so harmful the way they are? Why is this person, even just not even from like a criminal or psychological standpoint, why is this person like continuously honking behind me on the highway, they're going through something.
Legit.
And once you can understand that instead of honking back at them or screaming at them, which doesn't get you anywhere, really and truly, like I've never seen a screaming fest get anywhere.
Legit.
It's through communication and through understanding and through empathy. And for me, that's something that very much resonated with him. And it was actually interesting because the first few episodes, I feel like the first few episodes of Demon Slayer really reflected how I feel, what I've been going through lately, in the sense of self-preservation. Because, you know, at the beginning of the show, like, Tanjiro would look like some really lame-ass main character who would probably never overcome his sense of empathy.
He looked like a scrub in the beginning, I'm not even gonna lie.
He couldn't even kill a demon. He felt so bad. The first demon he fought ended up getting killed by the sun because he was just like, I feel bad killing them.
And he made him die even a more horrendous death because he got burnt alive in the sun, like burnt to crisp.
That's actually what I want to talk about later when it comes to his empathy, because his empathy is he's a very human character. But yeah, and that's something I've really had to learn in the sense of with, you know, the recent situation. Well, not is it recent anymore?
No,
like half a year.
Yeah.
But well, I mean, in many situations I've gone through in terms of community work, really understanding that empathy is good, but to a degree. And sometimes if you empathize too much, you can end up putting yourself in harm's way. And that's what I really liked about Tanjiro in terms of his development as a character. He went from not being able to kill a demon at the beginning of the show to being like, oh, your technique, your music, like in the case of the first lower 12 that he fought, who had, when he was trying to get the mariachi blood, he was like, your technique and your music is beautiful, but I can't forgive what you did. And I feel like that is, like, I guess you could say, a perfect sense of empathy, and you really see like his development as a character. He went from empathizing too much to being like, I can empathize with you, but what you did is still wrong. And I feel like that's huge, and that's something that I've been trying to take cues from in terms of him and applying that in my own life, in the sense of looking at people like, I can empathize with you and I can see what you're going through, but, you know, punching this person in the case of youth, or in certain situations, you calling your girlfriend the B word or calling her a whore or whatever it is, that's not okay. I understand why you did that, like what caused you to say that, but saying that is still not acceptable, and it's not okay for you to say that. So to have, I guess, essentially having boundaries. Definitely. And that's really what I see with Tanjiro, having those boundaries when it comes to demons. Like, he still beat Rui, the one from the mountain arc, but at the same time, he felt a tremendous amount of pain, and thus led from his compassion towards him at the end.
That's very true. That's what makes Tanjiro such a solid character, because you can actually look at him and see I guess you could say the humanity in him when it comes to all living creatures. In a sense, you could say that he is actually the ideal one, the chosen one, or someone who was meant to save everyone. Because in the whole entire show, he's the only one who even has the rational mind to either be on one end of the stick and say, yes, I'm gonna help you, I can understand you, but at the same time, he's the same person who will be like, I want to help you and understand you, but at the same time, you're a jerk and you kill people, so I should kill you. But at the same time, he'll understand where they came from and what got into that state. So it's not like he's gonna kill you brutally and just slice you up. He will actually give you a fair chance and kind of want to understand you, kind of want to give you a chance to redeem yourself. But at the same time, he can't, because in the end, demons are demons. But he understands the logic and the whole aspect of why demons are the way they are, because he's able to empathize, understand them. But at the same time, he's not naive.
He's not excusing them for what they do. And I feel like that's an important thing to do, where you don't excuse someone for doing something wrong, but you can understand why they did something wrong. And I feel like a lot of people think the two are the same. Like, if you're willing to understand why someone's doing what they're doing, then you're excusing them, but it's not necessarily the case. Like, you can still understand someone and at the same time not excuse what they did. And in terms of self-preservation, it also makes me think of, because I'm a gamer, it makes me think of one of my favorite video game characters, Mega Man X. If you watch the Day of Sigma or even the first game, it took him a long time to be able to draw a boundary between empathy and empathy and having a boundary with people. So once again, these are just characters that really resonate with me in terms of empathy and compassion. You can't get anywhere without those two things.
Very
Um, and even I would even say like the three main characters of the show, Tanjiro, Inosuke, and Zenitsu, all have different levels of empathy.
Indeed, they do. And
I don't know if you want to like. I'll let you kind of talk on that a little bit more.
one character that I really want to touch on is Inosuke, because Inosuke, he's like the brute of the show. When you're first introduced to him, you actually think that he's a barbaric little asshole. Pardon my language, but he's a barbaric little person who's just mean, and he has no compassion towards anyone. Like, you literally see him wailing on Zenitsu because Zenitsu was trying to protect Tanjiro's sister. And he doesn't care. Like, when you look at him, you just be like, he doesn't care. But as the show goes on, you actually notice like a little soft side to him. Aside from his barbaric nature, you actually realize that he's a real pure character. And by pure, I mean that he's a character with like no sin. Like, he grew up in the wilderness, and he is the way how he is because he has to be strong. And he also, if you notice, like when he was fighting Zenitsu, he wasn't going to kill Zenitsu. He wasn't going to actually like murder him or anything. He just simply likes to fight. He's kind of like a Goku in a sense, where all he wants to do is just enjoy himself. And when I think it was Tanjiro told when Tanjiro told Inosuke, you cannot use swords against another demon slayer. If you notice at that moment, Inosuke was, alright, I respect that. I'm not going to use swords. Put your fists up. We're going to fight right now. Because that's all he knows. He's really pure in that sense. He's not going to just upright kill someone for no reason at all. And you get to see, like, as the series goes further, that he's really sympathetic towards a lot of people without even noticing.
How so?
So I have like probably two examples I could use of this. When they got injured from their, which fight was it? They got injured and they had to go to the granny and recover.
Yeah, it was after the first 12 Kizuki, the lower half.
Mm-hmm.
The guy that was excommunicated from the tambourine one.
Yeah, so yeah, pretty much basically right when they met him.
Mm-hmm.
They ended up going to the house to like heal up, and so Inosuke seen the old fragile little lady and just was like, yo, you're a weak little prune. Like, you're actually nothing. And he, I think he said, I want to fight you. And it had to be Zenitsu to tell him, like, yo, you can't just fight an old lady. In this case, you can see that, one, Inosuke is pretty dumb. He doesn't really know much about the world. But at the same time, he's not a brute to the point that he will just punch the lady upright in her face. He actually kind of examined the lady, and he was like, oh, you're weak and fragile. You can't fight. Because that's all he knows, just fight. But at the same time, he's able to show real compassion. Or in this case, he's able to show empathy towards this fragile little lady and acknowledge her that she's a good person. Two, she's about to take care of him. And three, she's not really that much of a fighter, and she needs to be protected. And I don't know if anyone remembers, but when Inosuke left her, she was like, oh, don't die, or something like that.
Yeah, live your life with honor, or something like that.
And Inosuke actually, like, he got happy. Like, Inosuke has a little face.
Him. Yeah.
He has a little face.
With the sparkles.
And, like, bubbles start coming out, and then he's just, like, kind of staring in awe. He's like, aww.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cute. Like, it's kind of funny to see such a character who's just a brute and just, like, just so barbaric show empathy towards other characters like that, because he's a brute.
Mm-hmm.
Literally.
Mm-hmm.
He's a freaking brute. Example number 2 was when I guess when he was fighting with Tanjiro in the forest arc. When Tanjiro was kind of like taking charge and just like doing everything, kind of making the right shots and the right calls. Inosuke, he obviously did not want to listen to Tanjiro, but at the same time he did. He stopped using muscle and strength and chose to use his head for once, because he acknowledges Tanjiro's strength as a person, and how he is, and he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna use my head for once, and I'm gonna use that to fight this giant spider demon guy." Obviously, it didn't work out for him. He had to like think back and be like, "Oh, this is not who I am. I'm not
also,
the kind of."
No, finish what you're saying. I'm actually wanting to say something.
Yeah, he realized that like that's not his character of who he is, but instead he should.
All right, so technical difficulties. The recorder froze and stopped recording, so we're gonna continue more or less from where we left off, and essentially we're talking about like how Inosuke can like his sense of, I don't know if it's empathy or really just like tolerance of people. I don't know.
It's a weird thing, but I look at him as a character more like Goku, because Goku too is that kind of character who when he meets someone and this actually kind of relates to me a lot, which is really funny.
Well, you always like those characters, but yeah, go on.
Yeah, I do. But like when it comes to Inosuke, he's a character who like acknowledges people based off of their strength. Me myself, as like a hardcore gamer, a person who just likes to fight for no reason. I don't fight for no reason, but like I would like to fight for no reason.
You like to compete. You like to compete. You're competitive.
I'm hella competitive. But
same.
Yeah, he's a character who really acknowledges people based off their strength. And when he realizes someone is weak, he'll really point it out. Example, I don't know if it got cut off or not, but when he was talking about when he met the old lady after his battle.
Also, technically, it's an answer too, but yeah, go on.
Yeah, when he finished his battle with the tambourine and Zenitsu and Tanjiro, he met the old lady, and the first thing he criticized was his strength and how fragile she was. He didn't want to do anything to her. He didn't want to fight her. He thought if he touched her, she would have died. I'm kind of the same exact way. If I see someone who is kind of, in a sense, in Smash Bros, when they're, in a sense, like, weak, I wouldn't try against them. But at the same time, I wouldn't necessarily, like, want to fight them too hard. I'll just want to, like, kind of see what kind of person they are and just, like, feel them out a bit. But I won't get amusement or joy from it, in a sense. When it comes to characters like Inosuke, and I want to pull in characters like Goku and Vegeta because I feel like they all fall into the same category of like, oh, when I see you, I want to fight you.
I would also argue Luffy for One Piece, but I know you haven't jumped on One Piece yet.
Yeah,
Luffy,
I'm not fully on that One Piece train. I'll catch up in like 10,000 episodes.
Yeah, go on.
But yeah, when he sees those characters, he wants to relate to them through fighting. He wants to relate to them by interacting with them.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's how he wants to relate to them because he grew up in the wilderness. As I was saying, he's literally a brute. All he knows is how to fight. Growing up, I'm that person.
So fighting is how he connects with people.
And me too. Like how I connect with people. I actually like to argue with people because I get to see what kind of character they are. I get to see how mentally strong they are. I get to see a lot of things just from a simple argument or even a game or a battle. You really get to see someone's character through things like that. And I feel like that's where I relate to Inosuke like the very most. And just the way how he sympathizes with people. If he sees someone who's weak, he's not going to want to just fight them. He's going to want to just like, he's not going to want to fight them. He'll be like, you're fragile. If I touch you, you're going to die. It's the same thing. I want to like touch a fragile person.
Isn't Akuma from Street Fighter one of your favorite characters too?
I actually love Akuma.
And Akuma's actually the same thing. Akuma doesn't like fight. I don't know if you know this, but Akuma doesn't fight weak people. He actually avoids that because like he actually is very much opposed to strong people taking advantage of weak people. He only fights people that are on his level or higher.
Exactly.
So that's actually kind of interesting. How you relate to that.
I'm very similar. Fun fact, there was a video that you had with this person named B115 who's actually a really strong fighter. A really strong Smash fighter.
Life lessons in fighting games, you can check that out. But yeah, shameless plug-in, go on.
I love fighting him. I love getting my ass bust by him. But at the same time, I don't let it get too down on me when I get my ass handled. I actually just want to fight again, and I want to fight and fight and fight and fight again. And then when someone else comes in the game and wants to fight him, who is going to get owned too, I'm like, bro, you're going to get beat up too. I'm going to get beat up. Why not just let me fight and get beat up?
Dead.
Literally, that's how I am. But I feel like I can relate with Inosuke a lot. I feel like that's why I kind of understand him a lot.
Like connecting with people through mutual competition.
Legit. Like, that's just what my character, who I am. Hyushi-sama, follow me, I'll fight you too.
And then when you look at Zenitsu, he actually was a really interesting character when it comes to his empathy. What I don't even know why I say was. It implies that he's dead. He's not. In the sense of he, when you saw him getting beat up by Inosuke was beating him up because Zenitsu was protecting the box that Nezuko was in, and Inosuke was one of the demon slayers that wanted to kill Nezuko simply because she was a demon, and Zenitsu, for him, he knew from the beginning that there was a demon inside the box. Because of his, I think it's his hearing, right? Yeah, it's his hearing. He could hear the fact that there was a demon inside because of the frequency. Sorry?
Daredevil.
Dead. And so he knew that, but he felt that because of the good nature that Tanjiro was, that there must be a reason that that there's a demon inside this box, and that shows his sense of empathy, his sense of compassion. Once again, going back on like trying to understand why someone's doing what they're doing, and so just taking that leap of faith, like, oh, I know this person's doing something wrong. Maybe there's a reason behind why they're doing it. And I almost said like almost every other name, but Zenitsu. For Zenitsu, it was the fact that it was just simply the fact that Tanjiro is such a good person that there must be a reason behind it. And then to expand on that further, I think you remember what I said before about Tanjiro being a very dynamic character. As much as he's able to empathize with demons, he could just be equally as apathetic towards humans. Like you saw, like he was so in certain ways he was very compassionate to that 12 Kizuki member with the tambourines, where he was like, you know, your technique was amazing, but I can't forgive what you did. But he completely snapped once he saw Zenitsu on the floor bleeding, saying he's protecting his box, his Nezuko in a box. He was, and that caused Tanjiro to just flip and like just attack him. Not with a sword, because he's still not going to kill people, but the fact that you can see that side of Tanjiro come out, and you could even see that, at the end of the series, when it came to his disagreement with the water pillar, like not the water pillar, the wind pillar,
yeah,
and how he full on attacked him as a human.
He was pissed,
right?
He was pissed.
But you can compare that, but to throw that into flux even further. You saw how the quote-unquote mom of Rui's family, he did a merciless killing of her. So he's more willing in this. If you're able to do a comparison, he was more willing to violently attack Inosuke and the Wind Pillar than the demon mom.
He was.
And then more so than that, just another thing I noticed. I'm like, if he's able to do a merciless killing of the mom, what does that say about his empathy when it came to the other demons? Because he could have used that same technique, but he didn't.
That is very true. At the same time, when it came to the mom, you can say, well, when the whole family dynamic within all the spider demons, it was kind of messed up. When the mom was literally being abused by everyone, she had no choice but to do what basically Ryu was saying at all. And so when she literally offered, she did offer up her life, but when she gave up and
she
showed
gracefully
like that
accepted
helplessness,
death. Yeah,
she accepted it. And Tanjiro realized everything at that one moment, that this is another sad demon who was forced into this lifestyle, and I have no choice but to like kill her. But you know what? I'll do it in a way where you can rest easy, and he did it. In terms of the other demons, all those demons were ready to just kill still. All of them were pretty,
but doesn't mean. Well, I mean, in sense of like, as much as like, yes, they were bad compared to Demon Mom, doesn't mean they had to feel pain.
Yeah,
he could have avoided that.
He really could have.
But as I'm talking about it with you, I think that is an angle of his boundaries or self-preservation, in the sense of, not in the sense of literally self-preservation, but in the sense of having that boundary where like, I'm going to empathize with you, but I'm still going to tell you as it is and what it is. I'm still not going to let you get away with what you did, and you're still going to be, I guess the closest term I can think of right now is punished for what you did, but doesn't mean I won't have empathy for you once again. As opposed to you, when you killed Rui, he actually, like, when Rui was reaching out to Tanjiro, and, he vaporized, and, Tanjiro put his hand, on his clothing, you just fully stepped on. He's like, you need to stop empathizing with demons.
That
And
was
this
the most
is like,
disrespectful thing ever. But
I thought it was really disrespectful.
It looks so badass though.
I thought it was just purely disrespectful. I was just like, wow, like that's like you're gonna step on him.
Yeah.
I feel like that is I don't know how to interpret that in terms of life application, but maybe it's just once again more or less sounding the boundaries between you and others. And so I found that interesting going back on the whole wind pillar thing. Like Tanjiro is fully ready to like, I'm willing to bet that if Tanjiro had his sword and he was all variables aside, he might have tried to kill the wind pillar.
I feel like Tanjiro probably would have just like, cause he said at least let me punch him in the face once. I feel like he would have gave the wind pillar just as much torture as he did to Nezuko, and yeah, he would just give just as much torture because in a sense this was like more of an eye for an eye, and just like how we're saying Tanjiro, he's able to see like.
I actually want to talk about that after, but go on. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's able to like see both sides and empathize with demons. The simple fact that the wind pillar was just so rude and just
ruthless.
Ruthless as hell, and a terrible person. Tanjiro's seen him just like how he would have seen any other ruthless demon in a sense, and he was ready to like crush him, like literally. Just,
and
like,
that's the most interesting thing. How he can, I guess, the really interesting thing is how, as much as demons are obviously killing people in the show, and harming people, you're really seeing a sort of, I guess you could say, lack of humanity from the human characters. How some of the human characters can be almost as ruthless as the demon, and it's just like, how bad are the demons if you're gonna conduct yourself in this manner?
Yeah.
Like how much of a demon slayer is Inosuke when he's mercilessly attacking a fellow demon slayer, like a fellow human on top of that fellow demon slayer, to a point where like he's on the verge of like falling unconscious, maybe even dying. How human are you? And that kind of once again goes in the whole dynamic of empathy again, in terms of how Tanjiro kind of sees it. Because as much as he's able to like snap on like a human, he's also snapping on demons. And it's just kind of seeing that sort of dynamic within the show.